Okay, so part 2, let's go through more questions. So at 15, same thing, we have f and g, we have function for f and g, but now they're asking you to subtract them. So we're gonna, subtraction does matter, like the order, so it says f minus g. So we need to write f, and I will put it in parentheses now because subtracting does change a couple things. Minus g x minus 9. Okay, the minus has to distribute to the terms in the back. So these parentheses can drop. It's not affecting it, but now it'll be negative x and positive 9. And now you combine like terms, you want to simplify it. So at the end, we get x squared doesn't have a pair to add with. Negative 6 can add with the negative x. So negative 6 and technically a negative 1, that's negative 7x. And negative 27 plus 9, negative 27 plus 9, that's negative 18. So this would be my final answer for f minus g of x. So all you did was subtract the functions to create a new function. Now 16 is saying use the same ones to evaluate f of 7 minus g of 5. So evaluating means you would get a value. So in f, you're going to plug in the number 7. So you should put parentheses in front and behind the x, in front and behind the x, in front and behind the x. That's all you're doing. So into f, this is what it looks like. And g. Okay, into f, it says plug in the number 7. So we're going to put 7 in here. And then let's calculate it. 7 times 7, that's 49. Negative 6 times 7, that's negative 42 minus 27. And now just add them all together. 49 minus 42, well, that's 7. And then minus 27 is a negative 20. On the other one, we're supposed to plug in the number 5 because it says G5. So 5 minus 9, that's a negative 4. So for f, I got negative 20 when I plugged it in. And for g, I got negative 4. So now you do have to subtract them because the directions were to subtract. So negative 20 minus negative 4, these would go back to a positive, and it'd be negative 16. The final answer would be negative 16. So f of 7 minus g of 5 is negative 16. Okay, for number 17, we are doing a composite function. You don't have to, so you are just taking, it says g of x in the center. We start at the center for composites. So you are grabbing the function for g. You're grabbing g, and it is inside of f because you can see f is on the outer side. So what we're doing basically is this part, this whole thing, g, you have to write it where the x is into f, right here. So it would be 2. Now leave space for the new function. Plus 6 is still on the outer side. And in that spot, you have to write all of g. All of g has to go inside of f. So it'd be x squared minus 7x minus 9. That would be done if they didn't ask you to simplify. So if it just said, hey, create the composite function, then you're done. But if it does say to simplify, then you want to distribute the 2, multiply it to all 3 terms. So it'd be 2x squared minus 14x minus 18 plus 6. These two can add at the end. Those are the only ones. So the final answer would be 2x squared minus 14x. And then we have a negative 18 plus 6. So that would be, negative 12. And that's f of g of x. And it did say write in standard form, so that does mean simplify. So this would be the final answer. But if not, then this one would be fine too. For 18, again, another composite function. They give you 3 functions. You have k, you have s, and you have w. And the directions are to find k of w of s of x. So I like to write it k, w, s, x. What this does is it just helps me see that obviously first you have to start with s. So we're going to grab this one. And you're going to go and write it into one of the other ones where the x goes. And it says w is next. So s has to go into w. So you're going to write all of that at the bottom of the fraction. The x is going to go away. So our new would be 3 over 3x minus 9. Because we're writing 3x minus 9 on the bottom of the fraction. Now that answer has to go into k because k is the last letter on the left. So you're going to grab this fraction that we just created, this new fraction, 3 over 3x minus 9, and it goes where the x goes into k. So it's going to go as the exponent. So the final answer is going to be, yes, you have 2 as the base, and the exponent is now 3x minus 9. And this would be your final answer for k of w of s of x. It's 2 with an exponent of 3 over 3x minus 9. For 19, it says use the same ones, but now find k of s of x. So this time you only have to put it into 2 functions. So you start with s. It says start with s. The one in the center is s. So I'm gonna erase a couple things. So I am gonna grab s. Okay, this is s, right? S, and take it to k. You're gonna take it to the exponent of k. So the final answer is 2 and 3x minus 9, because all you're doing is writing 3x minus 9 where the x is, and that's finished. Okay, so that's it. You're just building a composite function. For 20, same thing. You have ws of x. So at the center is s again. So we're going to start with s, 3x minus 9. That's the one that you're grabbing. And you have to write it. You have to take it to w. So that means it would go on the bottom, because on the bottom is where the x used to be, even though right now you can't see it, but that's where it was. So the final answer would just be 3 at the top of the fraction, and on the bottom is 3x minus 9. That would be the final answer. So this is ws of x. And this one is k of s of x. So you're not getting a value. It doesn't say evaluate. Like the top one said evaluate, like 16. So that's why we would get a whole answer, like a number, a numerical value. But this time it's just like an equation into another equation. So the answer is just a new equation. Okay, let's look at 21. For the function f of x, 2x plus 6, find the inverse. So the inverse is when the x and the y switch places. Okay, so what we're going to do is we have our x here next to the 2, and I'm going to change f of x to just the letter y, because f of x is y. Okay, so instead of having 2 letters, f and x, just switch it to y. So right now we have y equals 2x plus 6. And because we are finding the inverse, they are asking you to find f negative 1 of x. That means inverse. It means find the inverse. So in an inverse, the x and the y switch places. So we're going to swap them places. So now x is on the left, 2y plus 6. And what you're doing is you are moving everything that is on the right side. So that's the 2 and the 6. They have to move to the left so that y could be alone. And then you'd be done. And the way that it goes is you have to do the opposite operation. So here, you have to move the number that's farthest away from y first. So right now the 2 is attached to it. That one moves last. Right now it's the 6 that we need to move. It says add 6, so the opposite would be to subtract 6. So we're going to subtract 6 to both sides. Minus 6, minus 6. That cancels to 0. On the left, we have x take away 6, because that's what it says. And then you bring down the 2y. And last step, you need to separate the 2 from the y. They're multiplying. 2y means to multiply, so the opposite would be to divide. So I'm going to divide by 2, and I divide by 2, so that would be a fraction. And now that would be my final answer. The inverse of y is x minus 6 over 2. You can also write it f inverse of x equals x minus 6 over 2. Okay, number 22 is asking for the same concept. So I'm going to switch this to the letter y. So now my new starting equation is y equals the cube root of x over 6. And again, if I'm finding the inverse, because that's what f negative 1 means, then I switch the x and the y, switch those. We're going to swap places. So now I have x equals the cube root of y over 6. And we need to get y by itself. So again, we need to move that cube root, that little root, and the 6. Move the one that's furthest away from y first, so that's the denominator. It says divide by 6, so the opposite is to multiply by 6. So we're going to multiply by 6, cancels, multiply by 6. So right now I have 6x because they're multiplying, and then I have the cube root of y. How do you get rid of a cube root? You would put an exponent of 3, and that would cancel. These have to go in parentheses to put an exponent of 3 so that they both have an exponent. So that would be my final answer. The cube root of y inverse. So that would be the answer. Parentheses, 6x cubed. You do have to put parentheses so that they both have an exponent, the 6 and the x. Okay, 23. I'm going to switch f of x to y. So I'm starting with y equals 8x minus 9. Switch the x and the y. So x equals 8y minus 9. And now get y by itself. So first, you move the number that's farthest from y. That'd be the 9. Add 9 because it says minus 9. So now we have x plus 9 on the left and 8y on the right. And then last step, if 8 and y are together, that means they're multiplying. So the opposite would be to divide. And then now y is alone, so you're done. The inverse of y is x plus 9 divided by 8. Or you can write f of negative 1 of x. So f inverse x plus 9 over 8. Domain and range. Okay. Let's see if I can... How do I move this ruler? Okay, let's see if this... Okay, so actually I could use the ruler to move it. So what you're doing for domain and range, domain is the x values. So that would mean that you are not looking, you are not paying attention to the y right now. Okay, that's for range. Domain is the x. So what you're doing is you're imagining that there is a line that goes up and down straight, like this ruler. And you are going across the graph, just going straight left and right, starting on the left. And what you're doing is you're saying, when is the function starting? Okay, does it start at negative 12? No, there's nothing there. So it starts at the number negative 5. So that's domain. Domain, we want to keep negative 5 in our heads. And then when does the function stop? See how it's hitting the graph? It's hitting the graph. And it stops right here at number 3. So the domain is negative 5 to 3. The last thing that you need to focus on is whether you need to put parentheses or brackets on the side. Because these circles on the ends are closed, that's a bracket. It means it is included. So negative 5, we do include the number. And then when we got to 3, we also include it. So they're both included. For range, that's the y. So now you're imagining a line that's horizontal and it's moving up and down. So for domain, you're going left and right with the line that's vertical, that's up and down. But now for range, the line should be sideways. So I'm going to turn the ruler sideways. Okay, like this. I'm going to erase now the y because now we need that. Now, right now, you are ignoring the x. Range is just the y. So this is basically how low and how high the graph goes. We always go from bottom to top. So how low is the graph? Does it start at negative 12? No. Let's go higher, 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 higher. And it starts at level 2. So we are starting at number 2. And then how high does it go? Well, we would stop at number 7. So it goes from negative 2 to 7. And again, because they're closed circles, like there's a value there and there's a value there, then they are brackets. For the next one, you can see what I mean by brackets or parentheses. You can also write it with interval notation. So that would be where you go for the range, it's y. So it'd be negative 5 and 3. And they were both close, so you do put equal to. And for this one, it's 2, and it's 7. So those are two different ways to write the answer. You can write it in these two formats, one or the other. Okay, let's do 25. Same thing, find domain and range. So again, for domain, that is the x. You want to take a vertical line that goes up and down. So let me move the ruler vertically, and we go left to right. So on the left, you want to be ignoring the y values right now. You don't want to be thinking about those. So where does it start on the left? It starts at -8. But if you look, there is an empty circle right there. Like it's an open circle. It still starts at -8, but now it's parentheses because we're saying it's empty at that spot. And then keep going to the right. When does it stop when it gets to the right? It stops at number 8. But on this side, it's a closed circle, so that's a bracket. So if you were doing it with inequalities, then you would write x less than less than. So it does go from the left -8 to the right +8, but the only one that gets the equal sign, the equal to, is the right, because on the left side, it was a opened hole. Like it was not working there. Now we're gonna do range. Range means you ignore the x values. So I'm gonna hide those. And now we should be imagining something that is left and right, like a line that is left and right. Let's see if I can turn this ruler. I'm struggling with it. I don't know why it won't move. Okay. There it goes. Okay, so for range, it is the y. You go from the bottom to the top. So from the bottom, what number does it start at? It starts at level -4. Okay, that's where it starts. And it does hit the graph, so it's fine. And then where does it stop? It stops at level 7. So right here, you're at number 7. And then right here, we were at -4. Now, even though there was an open circle below it, it actually doesn't bother the graph on the range, because at level 6, yes, it was empty over here, but it's also being filled in on the right side. So actually the closed hole does not affect the range. It's going from the bottom, -4, which it's included, to the top 7, which it's included. So the range is -4 from the bottom to the top 7, and they're both included. So here it'd be -4 from the bottom, 7 from the top, and they're both included because the open holes were not at those spots, so it's fine. Okay, another domain and range example. So for this one, okay, let's bring it back. For domain, that's the x. You want to have a line that's vertical going left and right. So let's move the ruler. Okay, you want to ignore the y because domain is just the x, and you're going left to right. So from the left side, start on the left. When does the graph start? It starts at number 1. So that's 1. And it stops, keep going to the right, at number 10. But that has an open hole. So it would be bracket and parentheses. The parentheses means it's not included. If you write it with inequalities, you would write 1 less than x less than 10. And again, you're only including the 1. The 10 had an open circle. So it's like an empty spot there. Now for range, we want to ignore the x. So I'm going to hide those numbers. And now we're going from the bottom to the top. So we need to change it to be, we're imagining like a laser going from the bottom to the top. What number does it start at? It starts at level -4, but that is an open circle. So it's -4 with the parentheses for the range. And then how high does it go? So now we want to drag the ruler up, and it stops at level 6. But that one is included because it's not an open hole up there. See how it's included? But down here, it was an open hole that it would hit. So if we wrote it with inequalities, it would be -4 less than y less than 6. For domain, we use x. For range, we use y. And the one that was included was just the 6. That one is the one that it's equal to. Okay, so that is domain. And I think I'll probably break here and start the next video.